Same story, different week for the Arkansas men's basketball team. Women's basketball gets their young star back, and gymnastics comes up short in Baton Rouge over the weekend. We'll talk about that on today's episode.
You hear that? You hear that? That's special. There's a lot of lions, tigers, and bears, but there ain't but one razorback.
Madden for maybe the win. Oh! The follow is good. Arkansas in overtime. I think he just made SportsCenter again.
Arkansas is in hog heaven. They won the first ever national championship.
All I want you to do tonight is play your best. Don't worry about making a mistake. You make a mistake, that's fine as long as you're going 100 miles an hour.
Welcome into episode 64 of the Pig Weekly podcast, your weekly source for all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Episode 64 is brought to you by Homefield. Go check them out. They're the home of premium vintage collegiate apparel. Fantastic things. They just released a new Arkansas collection of 6 pieces. Fantastic items. You can use promo code Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off your first order. So go check them out today. And as you'll notice, no Seth today. We have David here co-hosting with us today because Seth is out because he is now a father. He welcomed in his son Miles on February 1st at 9:46 in the morning. So congratulations to him. We wish him the best. He'll be out. Not sure how long, but we've got our fantastic basketball expert David here to join us for however long is needed. So David, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, and congratulations to Seth and Miles and everyone. It's good to bring a new kid in the world and everything like that. It's a special moment, but I'm doing great today. I wish I was coming into the show under better circumstances with the basketball team right now. I was hoping throughout the course of this season, when you invited me on, we'd be talking about positive things with Arkansas basketball, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. We'll jump in here. No Arkansas football news. Everything's kind of standstill there, like we mentioned in previous weeks, until spring practice gets here and things get ramped up to that nature. It's really all basketball right now. And, within a couple weeks, we'll be talking about baseball and softball. So fantastic there. But, I mean, when we jump in, we'll just jump right in here to basketball. As Arkansas men's basketball did go on the road last week on Wednesday to take on Missouri and got a win. Not something we've heard frequently this year with basketball, especially in SEC play. They got the win 91-84. Leading scorers in this game, you had Tremont Mark quietly leading the way with 22 points, followed by Mekhi Mitchell with 19 and Keon Meanyfield with 16. On the rebounding side of things, you had Mekhi lead with 14, so got himself another double-double, followed by Tremont Mark with 4, and Chandler Lawson, Layden Blocker, Khalif Battle, and Jeremiah Davenport all with 3 rebounds. Shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 54.1%, shooting 33 out of 61 from the field. 66.7% from three-point range, going 4 of 6, and 80.8% from the free throw line, going 21 of 26. So this is another game where you saw some positives out of the Kentucky loss. Arkansas goes on the road, kind of seems to look better, like they're kind of figuring out things a little bit. They're missing Devo, they're missing, Trevor and Brazile, 2 guys that at the beginning of the year you thought would be 2 key contributors. But they seem to be finding a rhythm without those guys here. So, this game, they come out kind of the score is not indicative of how well Arkansas dominated this game. So, quick thoughts on this win here as Arkansas beat Missouri on the road.
Yeah, if you want to look at much Arkansas dominated this game, look at the points in the paint. Just simple enough. Arkansas outscored Mizzou by 26 points in the paint alone in this game. They were absolutely dominant down low in this one. And, this is kind of what I expected out of this Missouri game. Missouri's not a good rebounding team. They don't have particularly that great of a front court, and this was an absolute game where Mekhi Mitchell got to feast in this one. Jalen Graham also played a pretty darn good basketball game as well. But yeah, Missouri's they're weak in the front court. They have a good back court, but their front court absolutely is their Achilles heel in everything that they do. And right now it's just bleeding over into SEC play for them. But, you felt a little bit of positive, coming off of a road win with Arkansas in that one. So overall, it could have definitely gone worse. But, at one point or another, you had the more talented team on the court that, in Columbia. I didn't expect it to be quite the blowout that it was. I know this game ended up being single digits, but that is probably one of the most comfortable single-digit wins you're ever going to see in your life. A lot of this also came down to Muss playing a little bit of stall ball like he likes to do when they were up big in this game, and Mizzou making a couple buckets count toward the end. So very comfortable win for the Razorbacks in this one.
Yeah, very true. Before we get too far into, all this basketball scores and stuff, it is good to note that Devo Davis has rejoined the team. That came out this week. Muss announced that he was practice yesterday, Monday, had a great practice. So, he had a 3-game hiatus there, and we never know what went on, what goes on, but maybe it's something he needed to do. We saw this similar situation happen last year, so he'll get back. Maybe he's refreshed. I don't know at this point. At this point, I don't think it necessarily matters, but we will see. But we'll get into that in a little bit when we talk about the rest of the season. But we'll jump over quickly here to Arkansas women's basketball, as they've been the more consistent team this season. And unfortunately, on February 1st, they fell to Alabama 86-70, where leading scorers for Arkansas, Saylor Poffenbarger with 23 points, followed by Samara Spencer with 14 and Michaela Daniels with 11. On the rebounding side of things, Arkansas was led by Saylor Poffenbarger with 11, so she racked up herself another double-double in this game, followed by Samara Spencer with 7 rebounds and Miriam Dowdle with 4 rebounds, And Arkansas shot 35.3%, going 24 of 68 from the field, 28.9% from three-point range, going 11 of 38, and 73.3% going 11 of 15 from the free throw line. I don't know about you, David, but for me, women's basketball has been the more entertaining basketball team to watch this season by far.
Yeah, it's definitely been much more enjoyable for certain on this one. I mean, you got a halfway decent good team in Arkansas playing this year, and Taliah Scott's been a great addition to this team. It's unfortunate she wasn't playing in that Alabama game, but she's been consistent for Arkansas, and overall, I feel like this team has been the better team to watch. And over the last couple of seasons, it hasn't really been that way. It's been the other way around with women's basketball kind of disappointing. This year has been a little bit better. So it definitely feels like this team's heading in a very positive direction right now.
Yeah, it seems like this team has really figured out a more way to play consistently than in the previous season. Did you see them win 2 or 3 games and then hit a losing skid of 2 or 3 games that just piled up one to another? This year's team doesn't seem to be that way. They lose one, but they know how and figure out how to bounce back the following week or following game, whatever it may be. So I really think Coach Neighbors is really starting to put together a good team. And not to mention, like you just said, Taliah Scott, you can't say enough good things about her. And she's only a freshman. She's coming in and taking the league by storm. And, I mean, when you have a player of that caliber, along with, Saylor Poffenbarger, Miriam Dowdle, 2 bigs that have really been rebounding well this season and starting to find their roles on this team's going to start having success like we talked about.
Well, Charlie Cream just put out his bracketology today, and he has Arkansas in his next 4 out right now. So it's not a bad place to be at all, especially when you play in a league like the SEC and women's basketball. Like, that's the thing. Just like the men's league, there's a lot of good opportunities to get good wins throughout the course of the season. So you're not done by any means yet on this women's team. You're sitting in the next 4 out. You've got teams that are sitting that you can win head-to-heads with right now, right in front of you. Auburn sitting in that last 4 in, Alabama sitting on the last 4 bye. Texas A&M is also sitting on the last 4 bye right now, according to Cream. So you've got opportunities to make yourself known in conference play if you're Arkansas. So there's definitely a chance this women's team can make the NCAA tournament and get a little bit of consistency back to Arkansas women's basketball. So it's been fun. I'm excited about the possibility of this team making March.
Yeah, that is for sure. It's one of those things there, like you said before, there hadn't been a lot of things to enjoy about women's basketball the previous 2 seasons as they struggled and they had up and down seasons. But this year they've really seemed to figure it out in a sense. And, we'll talk about the matchup they had against Auburn here in a minute. But we got to unfortunately jump back to men's basketball, where they went on the road, continuing that road stretch, and went to LSU on Saturday. And this was just not a good game from the start of it. They lost this game 95-74. Leading scorers, you got to have Tremont Mark, 20 points. He's been Mr. Consistent all season for this team. Jalen Graham, 18 points. Mekhi Mitchell with 10. Rebounding, Tremont Mark with 6. Jalen Graham with 4. Layden Blocker, Mekhi Mitchell, Jeremiah Davenport all had 3. Shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 43.6%, 24-55 from the field, 23.1% from the three-point line, going 3 of 13, and 69.7%, 23 of 33 from the free throw line. Seth and I have said it week in and week out. This was a game where it didn't look like we were in it from tip-off. We scored the first bucket, but after that, LSU just went on a run, and I think from that point, it was over at that point.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas's problems around the perimeter really showed themselves again in this game. You've got Mizzou, who gets 12 three-point field goals made in this one. They shoot over 50% from deep in this game. I know Eric Musselman's doing everything he can. He said he's running the same drills that he's ran with teams in the past that have been elite guarding the three, but this year it's just not happening for them for whatever reason. And he's talked about the execution in games. This is just another Taylor example of what it is. And LSU's been, now I do want to give credit here, LSU's been a little bit more surprising than what we thought they were going to be coming into this season. They've done some things. So they're a little bit better team than we originally perceived them to be. But overall, this is just another case of the issues that Arkansas has had throughout the course of this year that have been on full display.
Yeah, I mean, with this Arkansas team, it's hard to really find one thing that they do well. And you would think with this being an Eric Musselman team, defense is one thing they do well. And that hasn't been the case this year, especially like you said, that perimeter defense this year has been terrible. And it's just one of those things that upon many of things, it keeps this team from having success.
Well, I can go into it for a while, on what the issues are and just the frustration that everyone's feeling and, just kind of breaking it down from one point to the next. But the fact of the matter at the end of the day is it just feels like there was just something amiss. You've got all the talent in the world on this team, but just 0% of it clicking. So that's what comes down to. And this is just another case example of that. I wish I could point to one thing that Arkansas does well. You said defense. I know this year the objective was to substitute some defense for some offense when constructing this roster. But what you ended up with was a team that plays no defense and doesn't give you much more on offense. So there's concerns there. It just has not worked for whatever reason, whether that's consistency on the team or if it's just a chemistry issue or, you just got the wrong guys. So or we just all perceive things the wrong way during the offseason. I don't know. I don't know what necessarily the issue is, but it's extremely frustrating. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a broken record at this point with Arkansas. I don't know if fans appreciate just where this team is at. We were talking about it on my show. This isn't the worst Arkansas team this isn't just the worst Arkansas team that Eric Musselman has had from like a statistic standpoint and everything. This is the worst team that Eric Musselman has had since he became a head coach in college basketball. That's shocking. He's never had a team not win 20 games. He's never missed the postseason. And that's the trajectory that Arkansas is on right now. And that it's just incredibly shocking where this team is at.
Yeah, that's true. And let's take a look at this. If you're Eric Musselman, at this point, like we said, this season pretty much is a wash. It's over. There's no postseason to be expected here. You look at going into the postseason. Is there really anybody on this team that you want back for next season at this point, the way the season's been? I know there's some guys that you're going to bring back. You've got Layden Blocker that's a young upcoming talent, guys like that. But other than maybe him, Bay Fall, some young guys that can develop, other than that, is there anybody that you necessarily want back from this season's team?
Yeah, so that's a really tough question, and I think that's what Eric Musselman's going to try to figure out over the next couple of weeks. Is who's going to be back on this team. Now, obviously, the season is not over. I need to make that extremely clear. Your chances at an at-large bid are pretty much done. You really need to win the SEC tournament at this point. And it's early February, and we're talking about this. That's just how bad this team has been. But if I'm looking at players that I want back, Like I want Tremont Mark back. He's got a year of eligibility back. Maybe Khalif Battle. He's shown flashes of the scorer he can be, but he's really got to work on the defensive end of the ball and be more consistent on defense. You'd love to have Devo back maybe. But there also comes a time when it's time to move on also. So, and I'm not trying to knock Devo in any way at all, but you wonder if the tenure's kind of come and gone for Devo. I mean, this is year 4 for him. So you just kind of ask those questions, but yeah, there's a couple players I'd like to have back. But overall, I do think that this is a chance for Eric Musselman to rework his offense or rework his team and rework things overall and see what's working, what's not, and what can be developed going forward for this team. Like next season, if you look at Arkansas, you're going to have a very young team that's going to be left over. So you're going to have some work to do in the transfer portal to supplement those holes that you're going to have on this team. So you need to figure out right now, before you hit the transfer portal, which is coming up in May, April and May, you're going to have to sit there and think about where are my deficiencies at and who do I need to bring in to get this team back to where it needs to go next season. So I think right now the best thing, you need to consider is playing Joseph Penn. You need to play Layden Blocker as much, which he has. And we've seen an increase in minutes for Layden Blocker, which he's done well in those minutes. He's done pretty well. I believe he was only -4 in the LSU game, which is overall not that bad when you consider the rest of the plus minuses on the team in this one. And we've also talked about his defensive upside. He's still probably one of the best defensive guards coming into the SEC this season. He's shown flashes of what he can do. And also, additionally, he's going to be somebody who's going to be a point guard on this team next year. So I definitely like to have him back. I think it's also a possibility, Kenyon Minifield, having him back next season is probably an addition that you can have some consistency at the point guard spot with 2 young point guards leading the charge and working with them over the course of the offseason. So there's a couple of guys I'd like to have back, but overall, I do think that maybe some move on is not the worst thing that imaginable right now.
Yeah. And one of those things that I think I've seen Arkansas really struggle in this season that I don't know if a Musselman team would do it, but I want to see Musselman go out and get a true big, not one of these stretch bigs, stretch forwards. You look at what we contend with in the SEC. If you go out and get a true 5, and who to say if Bay Falk can't bulk up and develop a little bit that he can't turn into that. But really, I think this is a different team if you add that piece to this season's team.
Well, I gotta wonder how much different it would be because Arkansas is already leading in blocks. They're doing work there. You just saw them dominate Missouri, a team without a big, just absolutely blow them out of the water in the paint in that game. So, I mean, how much of a difference it would have made this season, I don't know. I know that was a big point of conversation, but like I think what you're really missing is backcourt defense, which I thought would never be a problem when the transfer portal came around and you looked at this team. You go, Tremont Mark's a good defender, Layden Blocker's a good defender, and then you got Debo Davis who's a good defender. Like you got 3 good defenders on this team, and you're out here going, where's the defense? It just never clicked. So I don't know how much of a difference it would have made. And additionally, a lot of these bigs are getting beat down low on drives down low because guards are ending up letting them pass them. So I really think the guard play is really the bigger concern, but I understand the need for a big on Arkansas next season. I believe Mekhi Mitchell's out of eligibility on this Razorback team next year. So getting a big would probably be a good thing in the portal this season. Even if you just get somebody who's good for some rebounds, just out there fighting for some rebounds would be tremendously helpful. But to me, that's kind of the question mark right now is I think the deep perimeter defense has got to improve. It has to improve, especially when you're talking about teams in the SEC that are like Nate Oates' team with Alabama, who emphasize the 3-point shot over the mid-range game. And then Florida, who I like to refer to as Alabama light because they follow a similar strategy. You're going to be running into teams like that emphasize the 3. And Mizzou, by the way, they've got a really good freshman class that they're going to be bringing in next year. So your perimeter defense has to improve next season. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah. And I believe, unless I'm wrong, like you said, I think we're going to be losing Mekhi due to eligibility. I think Jalen Graham as well.
Yes,
There's also the possibility of, does Trevin Brazile even come back, or does he go ahead and take his shot at
Trevin Brazile was still projected to be a second round NBA draft pick. So if I'm Trevin Brazile, I'm not staying. I've injured my knee once. And I was being looked at as an NBA draft pick. I'm currently in an injury situation right now with Arkansas. So if I'm Trevin Brazile, I'm going to the NBA draft. I'm going to take my chances, and I don't really care where I come out in the draft as long as I get drafted. So like if I'm Trevin Brazile, I don't think he's here next season. I really don't.
I agree with that. Just like you said with the injury last year that kind of cut his season super short, and he's got a ton of potential. Like you said, I don't see him on this roster. So, I mean, you've got your one big of Bay Fall coming back that hadn't seen a ton of minutes at all.
Yeah, and Bay Fall we knew was going to be raw coming into this season. Like no one expected anything out of Bay Fall for this year. Nothing. Talking to Brandon on my show last season, we had that understanding well before this season, is that Bay Fall was going to come in. He's got a ton of upside, but he has got to add some weight and some muscle. To be a true big in this league. He's got a frame like some of the bigger guys in the NBA, but he's got to put the meat on it. And when he does that, he will be a much more explosive player and someone who is capable of playing in the SEC, and he's going to be here for a couple of seasons. Unless Bay Fall comes out and explodes and blows everyone's mind next year, he should play into his junior year at Arkansas. So I would expect 2 years out of Bay Fall. There's no expectation for Bay Fall this year. Like that's what people need to understand. And I know there hasn't been a lot of Bay Fall talk. I think most Razorback fans understood the situation with Bay Fall was that like he is a development player, and that's kind of where we're sitting at with him right now.
Yeah. And then, you've got a couple of good talent coming in next year with a couple 4-stars that will be coming in. So that's good to see. And, there's still a few guys out there that Arkansas has made their cut for, so we're still waiting on a few guys. But like you said, I think it's going to be key for Musselman to do his thing and go out there and, use his transfer formula and find the right guys to bring in. And, I think it as much as it has been frustrating from an Arkansas fan's perspective, you can't forget what Musselman has done for Arkansas. One bad season, yeah, it sucks in the moment, but 2 Elite Eights, 3 back-to-back Sweet 16s, that's really good, and that Arkansas hasn't been that type of program in a long time. So I think you got to give Muss a break. Sometimes, you hit with the portal, and sometimes you miss with the portal. And this group of guys didn't necessarily miss from a talent standpoint, but from a meshing and clicking standpoint, this season just wasn't there.
I just want to go outside Arkansas when I say this too. Yeah, no, every point you're making is right. But look at North Carolina. Look at North Carolina. They're a perfect example of what Arkansas is kind of going through. 2 years ago, they're in the Final Four. All right, they're in the national championship game playing Kansas with a chance to win it all. The following year, they're ranked number 1 in the country at the beginning of the season, and they missed the NCAA tournament. And they missed it by a wide margin. So, I mean, it's not like Arkansas can't bounce back. North Carolina figured out where they were deficient. They fixed their issues, and they went out and fixed themselves in the portal and with this team and everything else. They got themselves right in this offseason, and now they're the number 3 team in the country. I know they lost to Clemson today, but right now they're bidding for a 1 seed. They're sitting in perfect spot for the NCAA tournament. They look like a really good basketball team that's going to be threatening in March. Like North Carolina looks like a good team. Don't let one season just wreck the idea of what's happening. Eric Musselman is not necessarily the problem here. Now, if this trend continues, yeah, you can start talking about that. But the trend that we've seen over the last couple of seasons is an Arkansas team that finishes somewhere in the top 4 in the SEC, and then also, ends up going to the second weekend in March. So he missed this year. It's not that big of a deal. It's a little depressing, yes, because we had high expectations for this basketball team. It just hasn't panned out. So, I mean, again, North Carolina had high expectations last year. They tanked. Look where they are now this season. So don't overreact to this. So Eric Musselman being back next year is something that I think most logical Razorback fans are on board with. They have no problem with that. It's just a miss this season.
Yeah, very true. And so we'll leave the men's basketball talk behind, jump over to Arkansas women's basketball. Like you mentioned earlier, they took on an Auburn team that was in the last four in projections. Well, they got the win over that team 74-72 on February 4th with leading scorers Taliah Scott. We mentioned she was out for a significant time, but man, did she explode back with one of her best games as a Razorback in this return, scoring 33 points, leading away. Michaela Daniels with 15 points, Miriam Dowda with 12 points. Rebounding, Sailor Poffenbarger, your consistent rebounder that's going to get you double-digit rebounds mostly every game with 13, followed up by Miriam Dowda with 11 and Michaela Daniels with 6. Shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 38.7%, going 24 of 62 from the field, 28% from the three-point line, going 7 of 25, and 70.4% from the free throw line, going 19 out of 27. I mean, it's like we said, what a game by Taliah Scott in this as she returned to the court from, some injury issues that she had going on. And she's a highlight performance of this game. If you just break down her stats alone, 33 points, 11 of 23 from the field, so nearly 50% shooting, 6 of 12 from the three-point line, 50% from three, and 100% going 5 of 5 from the free throw line with 2 rebounds and 1 steal. I don't think you can ask for a better performance than that.
Can she play for the men's team? That's my question. No, she's great. I mean, she's an awesome basketball player. I mean, look at this game overall. Overall, Arkansas got the job done at the free throw line. They did an outstanding job. They outshot Auburn quite a bit, and then they worked the boards. They were +3 on the boards in this game. Any team that does the dirty stuff well, making free throws and gets rebounds, is going to get the job done. And then Taliah Scott's your star to help you get through some tough times and can clearly put up points in a hurry for this Razorback team. So, I mean, it was an all-around good performance against two teams that are fighting in that bubble range right now from the SEC. So if Arkansas can keep this trajectory up, they got a game against Florida coming up, and they've got, games against, they've got another game against, when are they playing Monday this week? Yeah, Tennessee. So you've got good games, good opportunities to come up, get yourself in that NCAA tournament. You're a bubble team right now. You can get higher. You can do it. You just got to get some good wins along the way if you're Arkansas. And as I mentioned, this is the SEC. There's plenty of chances to get yourself a good win in this conference.
Yeah, and I'm confident of saying Taliah Scott's one of those players that, if you don't have her out for a few of those losses we had while she was out, I think you can easily mark those up to wins, and you're looking a lot better. So she's one of those impact players that, you insert her to what Arkansas was doing with finding ways to win without her, and now she's back. I think this team, has the chance to, get hot, if you will, at the right time. We're in beginning of February, as conference play is starting to wind up, down the stretch, you get some good wins, like you said, over some of these top teams in the SEC. You're sitting pretty good when March and tournament time comes around.
Yep, it's definitely it's a positive outlook for the women's team. So getting these couple of wins is what's big for the Razorbacks right now. So if the Lady Razorbacks can get the job done and get a couple of W's, I mean, we can be talking about Arkansas in March right now. So and that is definitely a good feeling given the current state of basketball in Fayetteville right now. So yeah, no, Taliah Scott's excellent. To your point, you were talking about like how these win-losses shake out. If you have Taliah Scott playing Alabama, I know you lost by 16, but do you make that a closer game? Do you even win it if you have Taliah Scott in that game? How much does she help out? So she's a very good basketball player and someone that can make a huge difference for this Arkansas team.
Yeah. And so we'll take a quick break here, and we'll come back and talk gymnastics, tennis, baseball, and get you ready for season to get here.
You know what I like? I like to be comfortable. I also love representing my favorite sports teams. And in the Clutch, I am able to have the best of both worlds. In the Clutch Apparel is your one-stop shop for all things sports. They have officially licensed gear from all your favorite teams and players from the NHL, MLB, NFL, and more. They have sports classic tees from yesteryear and beyond. Check out their full website in the link down below. When you enter the promo code Variety Sports, you get 10% off everything site-wide. Feel comfortable with your sports apparel and go over to their website now at intheclutch.com. And don't forget to use our code Variety Sports to get 10% off.
All right, we are back as Arkansas traveled down to the Bayou to Baton Rouge to take on the LSU gymnastics team. And last weekend just wasn't a good, weekend for Arkansas and LSU and the PMAC. It just wasn't a good time for Arkansas.
No, I don't want to go to Baton Rouge anymore. It's a terrible time. Like, you can take your Mardi Gras and bring it somewhere else for all I care.
Right. And what's with teams always having a career performance against Arkansas? It
I don't
never
know.
fails.
I don't know. It's just the curse of being Arkansas, I guess.
Yeah. And the reason I mention that is Arkansas lost this meet 198.475 to 196.200. That 198.475 for LSU was their high score in program history. So that's fantastic that it happened to be when Arkansas was, taking on this meet against LSU.
When you're facing a top 25 team, what can you do?
That's very true. And so, not much here to look at. LSU outscored Arkansas in every category. They were semi-close. Arkansas had some non-characteristic issues on bars. I think they had a fall on beam. So it was just they struggled in this meet. I know this team's going to bounce back. Coach Weaver's got this team sitting pretty good. They dropped down to 13 in the latest poll, but I think they're going to find their way up and fight their way up, especially in this SEC that is loaded with a lot of talented gymnastics teams. And, I'm excited to see where the rest of the season goes.
Oh, certainly. Certainly. It's a fun time to be, if you're into gymnastics, for sure. You got a good team here again this season. So it's going to be a team that's going to be competing. So, you got some good meets coming up as well. So it's an exciting time to go watch the gymnastics teams for sure. I'm like you. They're going to bounce back from this. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, they had the opportunity for a big win in a meet on Friday as they hit the road to go to Florida, another one of those top teams that is very competitive. So, tune in for that. You're not going to be disappointed. Always entertaining to watch this. And so we'll jump over to Arkansas tennis, where women's tennis didn't have any matches this week. Arkansas men's tennis lost to Memphis 4-3. Unfortunately, taking the loss there. And then the one thing that we can always count to be consistent for Arkansas besides baseball is track and field.
Let's go track.
Gotta go. Love the track and field. So when you think about that, Wayne Pinnock for Arkansas was named SEC Field Athlete of the Week this week, and he currently holds the 2024 World Indoor Leader distance in the long jump this season. So great for Arkansas. The women's team is number 1 in this week 3 rating index. Arkansas men's team is number 3 in the week 3 rating index. I think this is just the standard that's set for Arkansas track and field.
Yeah, they definitely had a good meet in this one. It's an exciting time of year for track as well. Not only are you going to watch a good track team in Fayetteville this season, but also don't forget the Olympics are also starting this year. And that's going to be going down in Paris. So you're going to have a chance to watch some Razorback alumni compete for gold medals this summer as well. So it's definitely a good time if you're into watching track and field. I know I actually am as someone who does marathons. So this is actually a lot of fun to me. So I was pleased to see how well they did in this indoor meet. So it's just nice to get that feeling. But yeah, like you said, we can always count on the track team. We don't have to worry about the track team. They're there. They're always good.
Yeah. They got coming up the Big Tyson Invitational coming up. That's going to be hosted here in Fayetteville at our fantastic track facilities this weekend. So if you get a chance, get out there and catch some track and field going on, as several teams this weekend are going to be on the road. And as we talk about being on the road, we're going to jump over. Arkansas softball is starting up this week. Season is here. I'm excited about it. The way this team has been developed over the past few years, the postseason runs they have made with Coach Steifel, and then just their offseason transfer portal additions. I can't even, you've heard us talk week in, week out. There's a lot of excitement around this team, and rightfully so. And it all starts out with these 2 players named the preseason All-Americans, Nia Carter and Bree Ellis, 2 transfers that came into this program on top of what talent we had coming back. So, Arkansas kicks off down in a tournament down in Florida this weekend, where they're going to be playing several games this weekend before they come back home to have their home opener. But Arkansas softball, what do you think, David?
Oh, I think it's going to be fun. I think we got a team that's definitely got a chance to make Oklahoma. So there's a good team. Bri Ellis was a monster for Auburn. So I'm excited to watch her play. Seeing her name preseason All-American is just another positive for this team. Arkansas softball's in such a good direction right now. It's a fun team to watch. You got two teams that you really get to enjoy in the springtime in Arkansas now. The softball team over there in Boggle is putting things together, and they're getting more consistent every year. It's a nice trajectory for SEC for Arkansas softball in the SEC, which has been a good conference over the last couple of years. So it's nice to see that we're bringing in some good talent. The Boggle Bombers got another hitter on this team, so it's exciting.
Yeah, very true. If I'm under your check, I am keeping Courtney Difel here as long as I can. She's almost the softball equivalent, as close as you can get for Arkansas as the Dave Van Horn of softball. And, she's shown it. I believe it was last year we had the number 1 overall recruiting class. To think of, just not that many seasons before that, Arkansas was just a middle tier softball program at SEC. Coach Difel came in, rejuvenated this program, and, look at where we're at now. 2 seasons ago, hosting super regionals versus Texas. This past season, hosting regionals. So this team is on the uprise, and I think it's going to continue over the next few seasons with Courtney Difel at the helm of this program.
If you haven't gone to watch a softball game yet, go support this program because it's moving in the right direction, and it's going to be a team that's going to continue to compete in the SEC among some of the more elite programs that are out there. This program is doing good things in softball. Yeah, for sure.
That's very true. And as we jump over to the other diamond, baseball is right around the corner as well. They get started next week, and I think the entire state of Arkansas is ready for baseball to get started.
I think that might be an understatement. Everybody 100% is ready for baseball season to get here. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So, when you're talking about players to watch for, Arkansas had 3 players named the All-Americans, preseason All-Americans. Hagen Smith, he is going to be the guy for this Arkansas pitching staff this season. Can't wait to see what he does this year. Vihia Aloy, the transfer shortstop that came in from Sacramento State, has been doing big things in scrimmage and practice so far. I think out of all the scrimmages they've had, he's hit home runs in all of them, if not only one of them. So big things expected out of him. And then transfer pitcher Mason Molina coming in from Texas Tech, another big addition to this pitching staff. And then Hagen Smith was also named preseason first-team All-American by Baseball America. So the accolades keep coming for this baseball team. Expectations are there. That's nothing new for Dave Van Horn and this Arkansas baseball team. It's going to be another fun season for Arkansas baseball.
Yeah, so what I've been reading about the baseball team, for sure, it's exciting. I mean, first off, the outfield has so much depth. You got Wilmsmeyer, who's came in from Missouri. He's really fast, from my understanding, a really talented player. Someone who can also be a threat to steal bases on this team. Then you got Kendall Diggs, who's going to be back in that outfield as well. Really, really exciting players out there. Just there's so much depth coming in from community college level, coming up here, and then transfers as well. The outfield looks really strong, and then the infield's developing a lot of chemistry as well, and how they're working things out. I mean, it's going to be a good team. Overall is how you look at it. And we're going to ask again for the 14th billion time, is this the year that you win Omaha? I mean, you got a team that can do it. Let's see if we can do it now. But last year we end up missing out on Omaha. Typically the pattern is with the year following, we end up back in Omaha, is how Arkansas has gone in baseball. So I hope I'm not jinxing anything, but this looks like a really positive team. It looks like a team that can do really well this summer when it really matters. And, last season, I contend that's still a good baseball team that just ran into a really, really hot TCU team and just an unlucky draw in the regional. So I think this could be a really fun team to watch. And then, of course, the thing I'm really excited about also is that Peyton Holt's coming back for his senior year. So extremely stoked for this Razorback team.
I'm glad you mentioned that, David, because if you haven't got a chance to check it out, we got the opportunity to sit down with Peyton Holt earlier this week for a Hog Talk segment. So if you get the chance, go check that out. Fantastic, time sitting down with him. He's excited for this season, excited for his bigger role that he's going to get to play And I think from what Arkansas fans saw towards the end of the year last year, he's a guy that brings the energy, brings the electricity. He just feeds off the atmosphere of the fans, and then vice versa. They feed off the energy he brings. So I think he's going to be fun to watch this year. With those kids that lifelong dream to be a Razorback, had the hard way to get here, but he still made it here. Great story from him. So go check out that Hog Talk segment that we had earlier this week and, check that out. And as we get ready to wrap up here, we got some upcoming events as things are getting busy in the world of Arkansas sports with softball, baseball, everything getting kicked off. And that all starts this Thursday as softball takes on Marshall at 1 p.m. And then you got women's tennis on the road at Grand Canyon at 4 p.m. on Thursday. Women's basketball playing Thursday at Florida at 5 p.m. Arkansas softball having that double header on Thursday as they take on FAU at 6 p.m. later that evening. And then Friday, Arkansas softball is back at it early, 10:30 in the morning versus Ohio. You got gymnastics on Friday at 6:30 p.m. on the road at Florida. Softball has their triple header on that Friday as they also take on Penn State at 8 a.m. Or actually on Saturday, they have that triple header where they take on Penn State at 8 a.m., Michigan State at 10:15 a.m., and Arizona State at 1 p.m. So busy weekend for the Arkansas softball team as they're getting their season ramped off in a hurry. And Arkansas men's tennis travels to Nebraska on Saturday at 1 p.m. Arkansas men's basketball comes back home versus Georgia at 5 p.m. And on Monday, Arkansas women's basketball goes on the road to Tennessee for a big matchup that can really help their resume. And so before we get out of here, David, let everybody know where they can find you at.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just touch real fast that Arkansas-Georgia game back in Bud Walton Arena. If you have not checked out this Georgia team, it's worth a look. They've got a lot of talented guys on that team. Kim Palm does have it, Arkansas with a chance to win this one. This is in that magical around 50-something% odds game that the analytics like on this. So that's an interesting matchup. Got some really good players coming in from Georgia, like Blue Kane, Silas DeMurray, and you've got several players on this Georgia team. They hit pretty well in the transfer portal to supplement their young talent. This Georgia team is going to keep getting better every season. They're a really good team. So if you haven't got a chance to check out this Georgia team, it could be a fun weekend to go check them out. Looks to be a pretty entertaining game at home on Saturday. For you guys, we'll see how often I come back and substitute in with Caleb for a little while. But you can come by and check out Hoops Southbound anytime. We talk college basketball over there, primarily SEC basketball. I know it's been depressing with Arkansas basketball a little bit, but, March Madness will be coming around and we'll have our bracketology show and everything that we normally do. Basketball's fun one way or the other. We talk a lot of the big names, primarily like Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida, and, right now, Alabama, their turnaround, with their development of their program in Auburn. We're talking everybody over there. We're talking pretty much as many matchups as we can. So come over and check out Hoops Southbound anytime you guys want. We're also part of the Variety Sports Network like Caleb.
Yeah, there you have it. So go check out Hoops Southbound. Fantastic content they put out. You'll see me on their show every now and then as well. So we have a lot of overlapping here. And so with that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Woo Pig Weekly. And we'll be right back here next week.